Okay, today's video is dedicated to JGel. We don't know where he is. Anybody want to say hi to JGel? No. Campbell says, forget you, buddy. Sorry about that. I don't really think that that's nice, but whatever. Here we go. Parabolas in standard form. Standard form of a parabola is y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. The question is, what do we do with this? Well, first we look at the direction. Anybody know how we determine the direction of a parabola? If A is positive, it goes up. If A is negative, it goes down. The next part of the parabola that's easiest to identify is actually the y-intercept. The y-intercept happens when x is equal to what? X is equal to 0. So if you plug 0 in for x, you can see that those are going to go away, and you'll be left with c. We've already talked within this unit about how to find x-intercepts. X-intercepts, you factor it. After you set it equal to 0. Or your other option is if a quadratic does not factor, does anybody know what we do? Hint, it has the word quadratic in it. Quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Now, I believe that we've already covered all of that. Would you agree that we've talked about all that in previous lessons? So I know that today, when you go through the problems, they're going to seem like a lot, but we're taking 2 days to cover it. The other piece is that you do have something that's just slightly new, and that's finding the vertex. The vertex in this situation is right here. In fact, it's the point 1, negative 4. How do we find the vertex? There's a little formula you use, and the hint is it is actually part of the quadratic formula. Does anybody see part of the quadratic formula that we use to find the vertex? Close. It's negative b divided by 2a. That's the x value of the vertex. The way that we get the y value is we plug it back into the function f of negative b divided by 2a. So let's see how that works here. This is our equation. What would negative b be? Positive 2 divided by 2a, or 2 times 1. So I get 2 over 2, which is 1. So you can see where the 1 comes from for your vertex. How do I find the y value? You plug it back in. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Minus 3 is negative 4. So you can see how you come up with that vertex. So the new part today is really finding the vertex, putting the points on there, and then finally identifying the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is a vertical line. It divides the parabola in half, and it's very good. We say 1, however, it's x equals. It's an equation for a line. It's not simply a number. It's not a point. It's an equation for a line. So it's x equals whatever the x value of the vertex is. So whatever you got for negative b over 2a, that's what the axis of symmetry will be. X equals that. So we're going to do 2 examples in class, and then you're going to be able to work on the front part of the assignment. Tomorrow we're going to do 2 more examples in class and be able to work on the other part. So flip it over. Let's try these 2. We're going to identify all these characteristics. This is where our work is shown, and then we're going to graph these. Okay. So let's take the easy ones first. What's the easy part to figure out first? The direction. Direction is up. Any question there? The y-intercept, super easy. 0. There's no value on the end here, so it's 0. So now it gets a little bit more challenging, but I'll start with the vertex. The vertex is negative b divided by 2a, and the a value is 1, so 2 times 1. So negative 2 over 2 is negative 1. That's the x value of the vertex. The biggest mistake that people make is at this point when they plug it back in. And if you have trouble with that, you can grab the calculator and type in parentheses negative 1 squared, and then add on to that 2 times negative 1. As long as you put the negative 1 in parentheses, you're going to get the correct answer. It's negative 1. So check your answers to see if you're coming up with the right vertex. If you're not, you're plugging something in incorrectly. How do I find the x-intercepts? I set it equal to 0. 0 equals x squared plus 2x. If it factors, factor it. That's the easiest way. If it doesn't factor, then use a quadratic formula. Does this factor? It does. What can you factor out of it? Take out an x, and you get x plus 2. So you either have difference of two squares, or a trinomial, or a greatest common factor. As I factor out an x, what is the solution? 0 and negative 2. So the x-intercepts are 0 and negative 2. We have enough information to plot this graph. I'm going to make a 2 by 2 graph. I plot negative 1, negative 1. The axis of symmetry goes right through that. Who can tell me what the axis of symmetry is? X equals negative 1. So I have a vertex. I have the x-intercepts of 0 and negative 2. I have a y-intercept of 0. This is enough information to be able to make a nice graph. There we go. Hopefully you recall this from other classes. Quadratics would be very heavy in Miss Jepson or Miss Richter. I don't know what her name was when you guys had her. Richter? Jepson. Her name is now Miss Richter. We'll do one more together. What's the easy part to identify here? Direction is up. Y-intercept is negative 1. It's the number on the end. Now I find the vertex. Negative b divided by 2a. What's negative b? 1 divided by 2. So it's 1/2. Oh no, I don't like to plug in 1/2. Not much you can do. Just plug it in. 1 divided by 2 squared minus parentheses 1 divided by 2 minus 1. And I get negative 1.25. So I'm going to make a 2 by 2 graph. 1, 2. I'm going to plot 1/2 and negative 1.25. Who can name the axis of symmetry? X equals negative 1.25. I have a y-intercept of negative 1. So it means it crosses the y-axis at negative 1. You could flip that point over the axis of symmetry, come up with another point. So I've got 3 points. That's pretty good. But I'm going to get 2 more. How do I get my last 2 points? What haven't we done yet? X-intercepts. Does it factor? Are there 2 numbers that multiply negative 1 and add a negative 1? No, so we can't factor. So therefore, we use the quadratic formula. 2 problems on your assignment today, you factor. 2, use the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of, what's b squared? 1 minus 4 times 1 times negative 1 divided by twice the a value. How many negatives do we have underneath the square root? So therefore, it makes a plus sign. So x equals 1 plus or minus what? Square root of 5 over 2. Well, shoot. I don't know what 1 plus or minus square root of 5 over 2 is. Got to make it to a decimal to see what it is so you can plot it. 1 plus the square root of 5. See what that is and divide it by 2. 1.62. And then we try a different one. We try 1 minus the square root of 5. Enter, and then divide it by 2. You can plot those, 1.62 and negative 0.62. And sure enough, that's your shape. I just want to caution everybody what you type into your calculator. Watch how this is different. If I go 1 minus the square root of 5 and then divide by 2, I don't get the same answer because it's just dividing the square root of 5 by 2. Do you see that? So you have to press 1 minus the square root of 5, enter, and then divide by 2. Or you'd have to do 1 minus the square root of 5 and put that whole thing in parentheses. So insert a parenthesis there and a parenthesis there, and then divide by 2. So just be careful if you plug that in. Okay, so a review of quadratics. I have the answer key posted. I'm going to come around and help you as you're working. Yeah.